Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we're going to be talking about seasonal arcs and those beautiful seasonal title cards. But before we get into that, let's let our panelists introduce themselves, starting with Lola.
My name's Lola. I'm a writer. I've been watching Supernatural since the beginning, and I'm trying to go back and fill in the holes from when my mom was sick, because I kind of missed a lot during that period. So I'm kind of going through 13 and 14 because that's about what it was, and I'm like, oh, I'm seeing some of the parts that I didn't quite remember.
Okay, Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and like Lola, I've been watching this since that very first episode aired, and now I think I've watched it from stem to stern 5 different times, except maybe for bugs, which I've been skipping.
It's okay.
Once is enough for everybody.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin and Morgan Bryce. I write epic and urban fantasy as Gail, and urban fantasy, male paranormal romance as Morgan. All my modern worlds are one Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months to get started with season 12 on time, and fell down the rabbit hole and haven't come back up for air since. I've probably watched the series all the way through 6 times, but certain episodes more than that because they're favorites. I don't even mind bugs. So let's dive in season by season. What were the big arcs, and how does the artwork in the title card, what does that have to do with what's going on in the season? So season 1, kind of stripped down, bare bones. What was going on? What was the main plot, and what was with the artwork? Lola?
Yellow eyes, yellow eyes, yellow eyes. People fire on the ceiling. Yellow eyes, brothers. One was in college, the other was on the road. The one leaves college because they need to find their father. A++ parenting, and more yellow eyes.
Okay. Elektra.
Well, the bare bones arc for me is they get together at the very beginning. Dean grabs Sam with the infamous "Dad's been gone on a hunting trip," and they have their little discussion about it, and they wander off together to give us this whole idea of 2 guys hanging out together, brothers doing their thing, looking for monsters. And by the end of season 1, they have gone off to find Dad, and they have found him through having adventures. And that's the arc of season 1, is they went to look for Dad and they found him, and now we've met the brothers and gotten to know them.
Yeah, the setting up the whole concept of 2 brothers in a vintage muscle car going down the back roads of rural America, eating in diners and greasy spoon bars and hustling poker and solving paranormal crimes, basically hunting down dangerous ghosts and looking for Dad and finding some more ghosts and some witches in a town that kills people and all kinds of stuff.
The monsters were very baseline the first season.
Mm-hmm. And I really loved that. I mean, it was a lot of ghosts. It was Woman in White. It was Phantom Hitchhiker. And I think that's really where that first stripped down season 1 title card comes from, because it's got the same frizzy, staticky, blinky thing going that their special effects for ghosts often did, where you'd see the grayed out figure and it would fritz like a bad TV signal. And the Supernatural title does that too. Just very stripped down, very basic, but it definitely has that link back to the rest of the season.
Well, and it makes you uncomfortable a little bit to watch it with the jerkiness of it.
Right. Which, even though the special effects for the ghosts was pretty basic, it was very effective. The idea that this was a figure that was there, but it really wasn't there, we could see it, but we couldn't always see it. And you're right, it made you very uncomfortable because it truly wasn't natural.
Well, it didn't sit still so you could just read it. It would blink in and out a little bit and jerk and get a little bigger and get a little smaller, and you couldn't just look at it.
And then you have that flash at the end and you're like, what's that flash?
Yes, so it really did its job well for introducing a show about two guys looking for their dad and along the way hunting monsters and dealing with the supernatural. So yeah, it pretty much delivered.
And it's starting basic like that. It gives them so much to build on over 15 years. That's the baseline, but imagine, see what all they do over the years.
Well, and
Well,
TV shows don't usually change their title cards. That was a really weird choice they made, and it really worked out for them.
yeah, and
I
then
think they were bored.
yeah, as we see going forward, they not only changed it for season by season, but there were some special ones in there that are very memorable. So that was just a fun thing, kind of like a Easter egg for the audience going, well, now I didn't expect that.
Well, what do you expect? Because I remember Buffy doing that once or twice, in particular the episode starring Jonathan, or featuring the character of Jonathan, where suddenly he was the center of everything.
Yeah,
And the title cards changed. And that clued you in that something weird was going on. And it was really, really fun.
clever.
It threw you off balance because everything was wrong. Because you didn't know who the heck he was. And I don't know if that gave them the idea to do special ones or to change them every season, but that was the first time I'd really seen that done on a major series. And I remember it to this day. I mean, Buffy was a long time ago now.
20 years ago.
Yeah. So season 2.
Season 2. Bingo.
A lot splashier than season 1. What's the story arc? And then let's talk about the art. Elektra?
Well, this one's a fairly simple arc. This one starts where the first one leaves off with the car crash, and now we've discovered that Dean is, on life support and he's about to die, and Dad disappears off into a corner, and suddenly Dad is gone and Dean is okay, and we come to find out Dad made a deal. And that's where the season starts. And by the end of the season, now Dean has made a deal for Sam. I think that's where that one ends.
Yep.
And we've of course opened the gate to hell. It's a very busy season. And somewhere in the middle, we meet a whole bunch of people who will become important later, like Bobby and Ellen. And we find out about how Sam is one of the special kids. Because later we find out why. And we meet more of them, and there's the showdown at the end with all of the special kids. But that bookend of Dad making Dad making the deal with Yellow Eyes, and then Dean finding a crossroads demon and making a very similar deal is just very poetic.
Yeah, it's a fantastic, very strong season. Lola?
I wrote, Sam dies, Sam comes back, Dean sold his soul.
That's it in a nutshell.
That was my shorthand.
Well, we also are starting to piece more of the clues together. We saw Jessica die on the ceiling in the flames in season 1. We've had hints about what happened to Mary. And so when we get to the title card, which is a lot splashier than the first seasons, we've got flames, we've got the A in supernatural briefly turning into a pentagram. We've got you know, this is big and fiery, and all season we've been dealing with demons and opening the gates of hell. And so there's been a lot going on there, and it felt like such a big step forward. I think to me, the title card being so much splashier and fiery was kind of a signal, big stuff's going to happen this season. Pay attention. There's something big coming.
Well, also fiery, hell, those things are usually paired off together.
Well, and I go back to the story that Jensen's told, that they were using practical effects at the time, so they were using real fire. So in that scene in season 1 where he has to get Sam out of the apartment that's on fire, it was on fire. And the director's notes was, if you get too warm, get out of there fast. And so apparently Jared was trying to act, and Jensen's going, we need to get the hell out of here.
Are you in character? I'm not in character. I'm Jensen. We need to go.
Yeah, we need to get out of here now. So there was that urgency was not necessarily acting.
That's method.
I love hearing the behind the scenes stories like that. Season 3, what's going on?
One more piece there. Season 2 is where we also get Samuel Colt, and we find out he was a hunter, and we find out about how the railroads were connecting a giant devil's trap, and it was that was what was keeping the doorway to hell closed.
Which I just thought was so creative and so unique, and I loved that detail. I thought that was so cool.
Well, and it plays into it later, which is what makes it even cooler, is they tell us all this stuff to foreshadow that, you know, comes out later. Sorry.
No, I love
the foreshadowing.
It shows a long game. It shows that even though sometimes it doesn't seem like they're thinking ahead, they really are. They have a long plan, at least for some of it.
Yeah, and they did brilliantly at that more often than they didn't. So yeah, they did a great job with that. Season 3, we've got another new title card, and we've got a lot of stuff going on. This is really a big pivotal season. What happens in season 3? What's the story arc?
Sorry, that was a really busy title card too.
Yeah, very busy. I like
that. That's the one that's got all the symbols,
ghostly
and all the
hands,
clouds, and everything going on with it. I think they maybe even got too much stuff going on in that one, because it's really hard to tell what's going on. It's fun,
but it's got the key of Solomon symbol. It's got the words. It's got thunderclouds or some kind of demonic storm. There is a lot going on in that animated title card, and it's very ominous. You can tell that some sort of storm is coming.
There's a dark cloud hanging, dark moon on the horizon, which a song that would fit perfectly in Supernatural.
So
what is it that happens?
What's the story? Season 3.
Oh, I just put, what did I put? I put Lilith, Dean goes to hell. I wrote this all in the last hour or so.
We've got Sam's desperation to save Dean, and Dean has kind of given up on being saved. He doesn't want, because the deal was that if Sam stopped it, Sam would die again. So he doesn't want that to happen. He really doesn't think there's a way out of it. Bobby and Sam are still trying. Sam's getting more and more desperate. And then you've got Lilith, who I really think the episodes with her as that psychotic little girl were some of the scariest in the whole series, especially when she holds everybody on the cul-de-sac captive. But you've got some old enemies coming back, like Meg. You've got Ruby, who's a wild card. She said she could stop it, and then she didn't. And whose side is she on? And through it all, we have the brothers. They're still fighting a good fight. They still stop evil on the way, but the whole way through, the clock is ticking. Elektra, anything to add to that?
Only that this is our first introduction to hellhounds too.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
We get hellhounds at the very end. And Dean seems to know what's going on. He is very stoic about the whole thing.
And that's another death scene that was done with practical effects. So they didn't have CGI. So they were doing the blood packs and the pull on things and rip the clothing. And so that was not just, there was a lot of acting and discomfort for the actor involved in putting that scene together. And then the scene at the end, of course, when Dean is in hell and he's hanging there amid hooks and all kinds of terrible stuff. Apparently, the harness that was on Jensen slipped and was digging into his hip really badly, but he knew that to take him down, fix it, put him back up would cost hours of set work and makeup. So he just put up with it. But a lot of that grimacing and that pain was apparently real.
So real torture. That's, talk about method.
Yeah. And we get our first special title card with a very supernatural Christmas.
That was so cute. And I'm looking at it. And I love how the very blinks out like a motel. Like when you see like a motel and it has the vacancy, but it blinks out. It looks like a motel.
Well, and they dropped a little Santa hat on the A in Supernatural.
And then you have the Christmas explode, the Christmas ball explode.
It was absolutely cute,
Mm-hmm.
which was creepy in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very beginning, it did that spinny thing like the CBS special presentation that you associated with like Christmas specials.
Yeah.
And for anybody of a certain age who grew up seeing that before like a Charlie Brown Christmas or whatever, it was like, what in the heck is going on here? So there were a lot of really nice touches just with that episode opening, that there was a lot of thought and care that went into that they totally could have skipped and we never would have noticed, but it made it very special.
It adds to it. It's another thing to kind of make us like smile and be like, oh my God, I love this show. It's so great.
Mm-hmm. They give us all these little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
So season 4, what's the big story arc for season 4?
Well, season 4 starts with Dean just Dean digging his way out from underground and rapidly discovering that he was clawed out of hell by Castiel, who grabbed him and dragged him out from perdition, as he put it, and that angels exist, which Dean was always certain was a no-go. I mean, yeah, werewolves, vampires, sure, but angels, no, I know those don't exist. There's a whole run on it in one of the episodes where he goes off on I know angels don't really exist. So we start out with the whole angels absolutely exist, and then we run through Lilith is trying to break the seals. And then Lilith is the last seal and Lucifer rises.
Mm-hmm.
Dean rises at the beginning and Lucifer rises at the end. And
Good
again,
bookend.
you have these perfect bookends.
Mhm.
Good. That shows a symmetry that I don't think about.
I cannot tell you how many times I've watched that scene where Castiel first appears and we get our first look at Eve.
Oh, and the wings are so, I love the show Lucifer, but in my opinion, supernatural angel wings are much more ominous and freaky.
It's not that. It's just the way that Misha gives those first couple of lines and explains, and we grow to understand exactly where angels fit in the universe. Or as the showrunners put it, if we're going to put angels in this thing, why don't we just make them all dicks?
And they are.
So,
Well,
he was an angel and he pulled him out of hell, but that doesn't mean he was their buddy. At least
No.
not.
Not at first.
well, and I really think that Castiel had one of the best entrances on TV ever, coming out in that barn, and they're shooting at him, and he doesn't even slow down, and all the light bulbs are breaking. I mean, it's just a beautiful entrance,
And
and
he's
very.
Wearing a trench coat.
I know, he loves his trench coat.
He's
It's
dressed
great.
like Columbo, for Christ's sake.
And he kind of has that rumpled vibe about him, like he's just like trying to figure out what he's supposed to be doing, and he could play a new Columbo. He totally could.
Yeah.
He's
Well, and
just
there were-
amazing.
I saw a post, Lola, you mentioned the wings. I
Mhm.
saw a post by somebody who was a fan and also an ornithologist. And
Oh.
apparently the wings were scientifically accurate in many ways for bird wings. And
Oh.
she was pointing out that some of the times when you saw the angels with damaged wings,
Mhm.
like there's one particularly of Gadriel with his wings in tatters,
Mhm.
she could tell you which feathers were damaged and missing and what it would have meant for a real bird.
Wow.
So once again, on this tiny little detail that how many ornithologists watched the show, somebody bothered to do their homework, and there
I
was,
love
if you,
that.
there was this little Easter egg tucked in for anybody who did notice. But I thought that was just really fascinating.
Oh, that's amazing.
That shows
It's
dedication.
super amazing.
Mhm.
The attention to detail that they did, even on the little things.
Which is hard
So-
on a network show because they're on a tight deadline. It must be really
And a tight
hard.
budget. They didn't
Not
have
much
a
of a,
huge.
it's the CW, WB, they don't have a budget.
No, but it means they care.
They do.
Mhm.
Somebody
It's-
gave a damn to sit up at night doing all of this research to make it right because they didn't want to do it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want their name associated with a hack piece, which
Yeah.
which I appreciate.
So we have a new title card for the season, and then we also had a couple of special title cards as well.
Oh God, yeah. Those were so good this season. Well, the monster movie one.
Oh, I love
The old
that.
black and white one.
Yes.
Looks like the old monster movies when
It's
you
so
watch Frankenstein. That was so right.
And it's even got the snow on the edges, like you're looking at an old black and white TV. I remember those
Well,
TVs.
Or an
I
old
had
black
those.
and white movie.
Yeah.
And you could go
Mhm.
to the theaters and the prints are old.
Yeah.
And they used to deteriorate
And they crackle like that.
back in the day
Mhm.
when you wanted to see the movie early on because prints deteriorate over time.
Uh-huh.
Well, in the main title card, you had what appeared to be angel wings.
Yes, that was beautiful.
Well,
So
this was the angel season where we finally meet the angels.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
But there's
And-
also a new title card for the monster at the end of this book with the
Yes.
covers from the Chuck Shirley books.
Yes.
That like Fabio.
I know that's Fabio. That's so hilarious. Is Fabio supposed to be Sam or Dean?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because
was-
neither of them are
It looked like cheap artwork like you would have on those kinds of books. They were well done. They were like semi-unfinished covers. Like you paid somebody to sketch them up real quick so the characters looked pretty done and the backgrounds were pretty unfinished.
Mhm.
So you could recognize the characters. And that whole episode is just so meta.
Yeah.
I love it.
And you watch that episode and you do not think that Chuck is going to be an important character.
I'm still I still smart a little bit because I loved Chuck and part of me wants to think that he was actually Chuck and then he got superseded by God. But I went back and watched some of the episodes and God's like, yeah, I enjoyed acting. And it's like, oh man, it was really God the whole time. There really was no Chuck. Boo.
Well, he says right in the first episode, I'm a cruel and capricious God.
He is right. Yes.
I'm not sure if they really intended that I can't believe that they were plotting the show out 10 years.
I'm sure they were.
Thought about it, but they sure made it fit. I'm sure that was originally intended to be sarcasm, but they went back and got it.
Yep.
And we're
So-
just not going to argue with their prescience when they wrote those
No.
lines, because it worked.
You know, the running joke that Supernatural was only supposed to last for 5 seasons, and then it went on for 10 more years. So somebody sold their soul.
Yeah. Or they got really
That I
good
hadn't
writers.
heard.
Yeah. So season 5. What's the?
It was
what's the plot?
Becky, wasn't it?
Oh, I love Becky. She
Yeah.
was so annoying.
Yes,
I
but
loved it.
she's the one who
Becky
sold her
probably
soul,
sold her
clearly.
soul.
Yeah, clearly.
Sure. I'm sure.
Just before season 7.
Mhm.
They could have
So-
made her God. That would have been crazy. It's like, no, not
No,
Becky.
that
She's
wouldn't
not
have
God.
worked.
Not Becky.
See,
she's
so
not
season 5, what's the big arc here? Because this is the end of the Kripke original set of seasons.
I
Well,
wrote, huh?
well, the big arc there is Sam and Dean are, oh God, I've just got written down, they discover through the season that they're the vessels.
Yeah.
And they're fighting the idea that they are the vessels.
Mhm.
I think most of the season they're trying to talk Dean into being the vessel for Michael.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere along the way, they realize that Sam is the vessel for Lucifer. And they're like, yeah, right. Like, we're going to do this. There's just no way I'm going to be a meat suit. And you want me to fight my brother? Yeah, that is not happening. And then they get to the end and they have brought Adam back from hell and talked him into being Michael. And Sam's got a do or die here. And he decides that he can maybe fight Lucifer off and chase him back out. So it ends with Sam in hell and Dean going off to try and live his life.
And then we get that glimpse of somebody who looks like Sam standing under a streetlight, looking through the window at Dean with Lisa and going, wait, he's not in the cage? What happened? So yeah, we got
That
kind
was
of
a very interesting place for Kripke to end it, isn't it?
well, there's some conjecture that before they knew they got picked back up for several more seasons, it really was going to end with Sam in hell and Dean with Lisa, and then they got extended. And so now that they knew they were coming back, this gave a hint of how did Sam get out?
Well, or maybe it was Sam and maybe it wasn't. I mean, there are hints of that given all kinds of times in movies and such. And,
Mhm.
you know, the end of the movie and Marvel movies and
dun,
DC
dun.
movies, you get halfway through the credits and some other character shows up and says, yeah, right, we're going to have a talk. And then, you know, you never know what's going to happen after that. You have to wait till the next movie.
Mhm.
And as Supernatural has said before, people may come back, but they come back different.
Mhm. Well, and our title card definitely let us know that this was going to be a bloody season because
yeah.
we've
That
got
was the blood dispersal
Very
in the waters.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we had some special title cards too. We had a special title
Oh.
card for changing channels,
Yeah.
which looked a lot like Laverne and Shirley.
Oh, God,
Mhm.
yes. That was
Mhm.
definitely Laverne and Shirley
It's
with the two
funny.
of them on the bicycle. Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Um,
this episode. It's crazy. And the title card makes it.
Mhm.
Yeah. The title card was terrific. It had its dark elements the way Supernatural always does, but that was such a meta episode, and the title card definitely was very memorable.
It was a very meta episode. And yeah, it's Supernatural, so nothing is ever quite as lighthearted as it might be. You know,
Mhm.
the game shows where if you don't get the right answer, it might be a little more painful than reality. And, you know, you
This
might
is
be
true.
operated on for reals. You know, nothing there is quite as pleasant as it might be.
So Supernatural season 6, we've got what's the story arc?
I wrote Soulless Sam, Castiel gone?
Okay, I wrote those same exact things. I wrote a few other things in the middle. I wrote that Sam has the wall. Grandpa Samuel looking for alpha monsters and looking for purgatory location.
Mm-hmm.
Those being
All
my
of them.
favorite bits from in there. But yeah, starts with Soulless Sam and the wall in his mind, ends with Castiel as the new god.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've got to say that the episode where Sam has to confront all of the versions of himself in his own mind to go save Dean is one of my favorites, because that was just such a terrific episode, and I never did quite ask for breaking his wall.
Walking around with the bartender.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally figured out that something's not quite right.
Mm-hmm. And we see that in the title card for season 6, because it's shattering glass, just like Sam's mind.
Or his wall.
Or his wall. Yeah, his wall.
But it takes a while before we figure out that Sam doesn't have a soul.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere in there we meet Grandpa Samuel and the Campbell cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Grandpa Samuel honestly didn't seem like he had much of a soul either. Although
possibly
close to that,
but he had a library.
That's right. He did have a library.
And a compound.
Mm-hmm.
And, Sam saying, I've been hunting with some other people, and that offended Dean. And he said, but they're family. I've been hunting with Grandpa and the cousins. What could Dean say to that?
The Campbell family kind of makes me think, like, if I did 23andMe and found a whole sect of family that I didn't know about and got excited and went to their Facebook and it was all Trump stuff. That's kind of how it would feel, like, oh no, it's okay.
But Dean had already met Grandpa Campbell before.
I think so.
And he knew that who Samuel was, and thought this was a little off because he knew things happened differently.
Mm-hmm.
And Samuel's like, well, no, I got out of hell and I just started hunting again, like nothing went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And everything sounded a little off.
Yeah. Well, we also got a couple of special title cards. We got one of my absolute favorites, which is for Clap Your Hands If You Believe. That has X-Files, and it mashed up so many different shows. The truth is out there.
Well, it's a perfect correlation, because the X-Files, they were FBI agents and they're always flashing their badges. And of course, Sam and Dean are always flashing their fake badges. So it just correlates. And of course, there are a lot of actors from X-Files, Grandpa Samuel, who are on Supernatural. So it's like they're cousins. And this is just really mixing the family tree a lot.
Wasn't Kim Manners? Didn't Kim Manners?
He worked on the X-Files. Yeah, he was one of the directors on the X-Files, and he went to Supernatural.
So yeah, the special header said the truth is in there as opposed to the truth is out there. But and there were definitely some wonderful Easter eggs in that episode. But then we also got the Frontierland title card.
Yeah, so
which
pretty.
was Bonanza.
Everybody who watched Bonanza or Ponderosa got that reference.
I used to love that when I was young.
I would watch that.
Haas and Joe.
Yeah, Sunday night. But yeah, the flaming map and the it was just another one that was done so well and a perfect companion. Season 7, what do we have for story arcs?
Leviathans.
Oh yeah, I didn't love
the whole season is dominated by Cass gives us the Leviathans, And then by the end, we have figured out how to get rid of them, and getting rid of them causes the huge explosion where Dean disappears, as it turns out, into purgatory.
Yeah.
He's gone.
And then we get a season of him running around with Benny the vamp, which I love Benny, but there was a lot of running around in a darkly blue tinted purgatory.
Well, it was a very cheap way to make purgatory, is you shot Vancouver with a filter. And this is another whole realm.
Poor Vancouver.
Or, you know,
But,
but we also saw,
we got Dick, and we got Charlie because of
Yes.
the Pythons. And
I
we
do love
met,
Charlie.
oh, I have lost his name, the incredibly paranoid guy that told him they had to get rid of Baby because it was too recognizable. So they were driving random cars for a whole season.
Frank Devereaux.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Frank was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah,
we got
it was.
Kevin Tran. And of course,
Yes.
this was also the season we lost Bobby
Oh, yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
Leviathan.
Although,
They were
although
finally,
supernatural,
Hmm?
nobody ever stays away forever.
well, no, nobody ever stays away forever, but the Leviathans were the first truly, truly bad monster that they just could not,
That's true.
keep coming at and get a bigger gun and, make a plan and bomb them or whatever. And they could just handle it. They had to go into hiding and double down and triple down, and they still could not defeat the Leviathans, who were everywhere.
Well, they're nasty little bugs.
Overwhelmed and outmanned and outgunned, and they were desperate.
Mhm.
They're
And-
like bed bugs. No matter what you do, they just keep coming back.
Well, and they were full of despair, and it was only by the grace of whomever, Chuck maybe, that Jody and Bobby discovered what hurt them, and even that didn't get Dick. That just
Mhm.
got garden variety
Perfect name.
front Leviathans with the borax.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got to see the allusion to the Leviathans in the title card for the season, because we had the big explosion of black
Black
Uh-huh.
goo.
black goo.
Yeah.
They were just that was the first time I really felt that they were overwhelmed and could not,
Mhm.
and for the first time too, they couldn't go for Cass to help heal them or help them or transport them out when they were in trouble. They didn't have an angel in their back pocket.
Mhm.
So they
Yeah.
were really in trouble. It was a really scary season that way.
Well, it was, and the Leviathans were pretty terrifying, with the head that was a whole mouth. I mean, they had the whole snake monster kind of thing going. And then you had Dick, who was just playing corporate billionaire evil. So
Well, he was rich, so he had that insulation. There are
Mhm.
things that the very, very rich can do that the rest of us they're insulated from the rest of us to begin with. There's a certain amount of insulation. And he was taking his own underlings and he was bibbing them, which is
Mhm.
another frightening, scary concept that was just beyond imagining.
Yeah.
You have offended me. Go eat yourself.
And the actor who played him was just perfect in the part. Just,
He was-
I've worked for CEOs like that. I mean,
that
they're
slick,
very
overly tanned look,
spot
the
on.
slick hair,
Well,
and
and
that fake smile.
at some point you discover that Crowley has taken up and is hiding in a double wide somewhere and just trying to stay beneath Dick's notice.
Yeah, even scares the king of hell.
The king of hell is hiding because the Leviathans are just that scary.
Well, didn't Leviathans predate probably Crowley at least, but a lot of the demons, they would have predated them.
Well,
Yeah,
they were
the first-
scary or nasty or ubiquitous enough that they were gathered up by God and tossed into purgatory.
Yeah.
and Crowley and Cass mistakenly let them out.
Oopsie.
And we got 2 special title cards. One
Oh, yeah.
for season 7, Time for a Wedding, with
I
an
loved
exploding.
that.
Gorgeous wedding cake.
I know, it's beautiful. And then at the end, when the 2 figures fall. I love that. I didn't even notice that the first time.
Black goo.
Yes, well, season 7, everything is covered in black goo.
That's the theme.
But then we got the Plucky Penny Whistle's Magical Menagerie with all of the demon glitter, well, the demonic glitter. Sam, you know, didn't have much good to say about the glitter.
Multicolored glitter to give us a respite from the black goo.
Well, and to represent clowns.
Evil clowns.
And even the supernatural, it has like the green and red and everything, but it's kind of slowly bleeding down, which is even creepier.
And then it explodes. Yeah, they did a great job with that. Well, I know we're not going to get through all 15, so we're going to have to come back and finish this, but I think we can fit in season 8 yet. So what do we have to say about the season 8 arc?
Well, season 8 is where Dean escapes from purgatory with Benny, awesome vampire Benny, who shows him how to get out. And they're working on the trials to seal up hell. Kevin Tran has translated them from the tablet, and Dean wants to do them, but it turns out it's going to be Sam. And Sam is basically killing himself trying to do the trials. They find the bunker. They meet Grandpa Henry. They find the bunker. And at the very end, they've captured Crawley because they want to cure him to finish the trials and seal up hell.
And we have one of the best visuals in the finale of the angel falling from hell, from heaven.
Epic.
That was, and we get the scene in the church where Dean, you know, in his own Dean way, which is not exactly an apology for treating Sam like crap all season, but is a Dean Winchester apology on, you know, I'll never put anything else in front of you, which was one of the most emotional moments of the season. So we really got a lot of good stuff in season 8, even though, as I've said many times, I'm not a fan of the Amelia arc. But aside from that, we got a lot of really good meat from that season. And we got some cool stuff in the season 8 title card, particularly a lot of Enochian. All of the dribbling figures, like like a computer hexagon.
They turn into little glyphs.
Yeah.
They turn into the little glyphs from the tablets, which was another really nice feature.
Yeah, because now we know about the tablets, and it turns out there's an awful lot of those floating around.
So yeah, they did a really nice job with that title card as well. Even if we didn't know what it meant at the beginning of the season, it certainly took on more meaning as we learned more over the course of the season.
Well, and somewhere in that season, we discovered there are knights of hell. Because there aren't just demons. We discover there are knights of hell, and we find out all about the men of letters.
Yeah.
The you know, Grandpa Henry, who does a spell on them and runs off and steals their car. Because, you know, it's the only decent one in the lot.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a really meaningful, that episode is one that just holds a special place in my heart, especially given where they've gone from there to the Winchesters.
And we got to
Henry again.
We got to meet Henry again, and we got to find out more about the ramifications of what happened in that episode for the people left behind. With his wife and John as a child, and how that affected them, which was honestly was one of those loose end unanswered questions. I always wanted to know what happened on that side of things when Henry never came home.
Yeah, it wrecked John, and that's probably what led him to be an absentee parent himself. So Henry jumping to the future set the trajectory for all of the Winchester men.
and it was a very nice touch that on the Winchesters, they got Gil McKinney back to play Henry.
I'm behind on the Winchesters. Okay, I'm
So
gonna have to watch
that was a nice touch. You know, they've dotted the i's and crossed the t's in a few places.
And
Well, folks, we're
Well,
halfway through. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elektra.
if you're gonna make John a mechanic, and his dad disappeared when he was like 8,
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful that they followed through and made his mom the one who ran the garage and taught him everything he knew.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
It's a wonderful thing that they turned around and did that. And that line she has about how it's what I always wanted. The only thing I wanted was to have my own garage.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a very nice callback and wrap up.
Because Dean can like take a car apart and put it back together the way normal people can like take apart a handgun and put them back together if they're a handgun expert.
Yeah.
He had to. He learned that from his father, obviously, who apparently learned it from his mom.
Which is really cool. Well, folks, we only got halfway, but we covered a lot of territory, so we'll have to come up with part 2. But we got through 8 seasons. So thank you so much for being here. Before we end, let's let everybody know where we can find you online. Lola?
You can find me anywhere. Just Google my name, Lola Laracy, and I'll pop up. I'm pretty much all the first page.
Okay. Elektra?
Untilmidnight.com, and I'm Elektra on Mastodon.
Okay. And I'm Gail C. Martin and Morgan Bryce. Those are my .coms. Those are my social media names. As long as you spell them, you're going to find me. I am a columnist for the Winchester Family Business Blog. I run the Supernatural TFWNC Facebook group, but mostly I'm here on Continual. So thank you both so much for being here. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up on Continual. So we'll see you online.